That's the latest word from Baghdad Radio. But based on everything that we are hearing at this end, it is not at all the case. In fact, the American military operation is going very well indeed. That the description of American military officials in Washington, D.C., Defense Secretary Cheney and Colin Powell, no boasting, but they're saying that their objectives are being met. That's the same report that we were getting from President Bush. And perhaps we can count on this as well. The Israelis, we're told, are very impressed with what they're seeing so far. Incidentally, earlier in the week, we were told that there was a good deal of concern about 5 loaded oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, just off Bubiyan Island, which is off Kuwait. There was some concern that Saddam Hussein would leak out the oil, set it afire, and turn the Persian Gulf into one flaming lake, which would discourage amphibious landings. That has not happened so far as we know. The financial consequences of all of this.
Reports in the last hour about continued attacks, except one report from a senior official who said you can expect them to continue for 3 to 10 days. I think one of the things we heard from Congressman Les Aspin is absolutely correct, that we didn't mean to say that the Iraqi Air Force had been destroyed. What we meant to say is that we haven't seen the Iraqi Air Force. Yes, indeed, the Iraqi Air Force has a great many planes in bunkers that do not have the capability to fly and fight at night. They just don't have that capability. So as daylight is coming to the Persian Gulf, U.S. forces may see some of those MiG-29s and may see some of the F-1 Mirage French jets get up in the air. But again, Pentagon experts say these planes are no match for American fighters, and they will be overwhelmed by American fighters. There's just too much air power in there. So while the entire Iraqi Air Force may not be destroyed, the fact is if they can't fly them in the air, they can't get them up, then they're not much of a factor, and the air war will continue. And I think, Tom, the observation has to be made here that when we all started this back in August 2nd, we were all really taken in by the million-man, battle-hardened army and, you know, the tremendous 5,000 tanks and the 4th or 5th largest military force in the world. But over the last 5 or 6 weeks, as the intelligence assessments have been finely tuned, we've all begun to realize that Iraq is not, you know, the 10-foot giant that we thought it was on August 2nd. It certainly was a 10-foot giant to Kuwait, but to a modern military machine like we've seen unleashed in the Persian Gulf, Iraq just doesn't cut it. You know, they waged an 8-year war with Iran, but it was basically trench warfare, a set-piece battle, no air power, very inaccurate missiles being lobbed at each other. So I think over the last several months we've overestimated the power and the scope of the Iraqi military. If the initial reports are true, that we did not lose one aircraft in 300 or 400 sorties over a country that large, if those initial reports are true, then this much vaunted air defense system that we've heard so much about was something on paper only. So I think we're going to learn a great many things about Iraq and Third World armies and a great many things about ourselves in the last 10 days. And I would conclude by saying, Tom, that one of the things we have seen in this last 4 or 5 hours is the over $1 trillion we spent on defense. I would agree with my colleague Mike Jensen, this is going to be awfully expensive. One cruise missile, $1,200,000 for one missile. We are told the Pentagon's prepared to fire 500 of them in the opening days of this thing. One air-to-air missile, some of them cost $100,000 apiece. Some of these laser-guided smart bombs, $150,000 apiece. And aircrafts are loaded up with them. So it is very, very easy to conceive of spending $30 to $40 billion in a few weeks.
But Fred Francis, let's heed the words for a moment of Les Aspin of Wisconsin. And the fact of the matter is we don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. It does look like it's going well in the early stages, but it's not over by a long stretch.
There's no doubt, Tom, that Saddam Hussein has a daytime army, and it's now day in the Persian Gulf, and there's always round 2 to any fight, and I think a fight like this, and I think round 2 is going to have to be something that we watch very carefully.
We do not want to get out too far in front of this, because Murphy's Law always prevails in combat. If it can go wrong, it will, and so far in the early stages, when in fact all of the advantage was ours. Nighttime attack, surprise, our very clear air power. It went well, so we'll have to wait and see what happens here next. Fred Francis, we're going to ask you to stand by there for just a moment because we want to go to Joyce Starr now, who is in Washington, D.C. tonight. She's a senior associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. She's been talking with the Israelis tonight, I'm told. No, Joyce Starr is not there, but we expect to hear from her before too long.